Xiaomi doesn't like translating the software of its wireless router to English, so if you got the BE7000 or any other Wi-Fi 6 or 7 device from them, this guide will be useful to you. After powering up the Xiaomi router, make sure that it's connected to your modem, that either the phone you're using or the PC is connected to the Wi-Fi network that's being broadcasted. I decided to go with the web-based interface for now, so I simply typed the following in the URL tab, and the installation wizard should load, and I realized that Xiaomi will not let me copy any written part, so no chance to translate it easily. It does seem that the user has to agree with a couple of options, and I did find out that the first is the user license and agreement, while the second is a sort of privacy policy that comes under the Xiaomi router series User Experience Improvement Plan name. You can leave it enabled, and there is the option to withdraw at any time, but since I did not want Xiaomi to collect any extra data, I only agreed to the first option and the setup process continued. Then it was possible to create the Wi-Fi networks, and at the top I disabled the option to have the two default radios under a single SSID. This way I got two networks, and the other options were to allow the automated firmware updates as well as to enable the 160 MHz channel bandwidth. The first option with the 2.4 GHz will use the passkey of the Wi-Fi network as the admin password. Then we reach the main page, where you can either download the Mi Home app or enter the local management interface using the aforementioned password. Let's have a quick look at the app installation process. You do need to create an account, and be aware that there is email verification, but you don't need to enter your phone number. The app will ask to connect to the devices on your local network, to get access to the home data, to access your microphone, the Bluetooth, and eventually will also ask for you to join the user experience program that we talked about earlier. I decided to decline all of them and continued with the installation. Still, you won't get away without agreeing with their privacy policy, so some data from your app will be collected. I did add a quick peek at what Xiaomi will use your data for. And it is a standard across the industry, so very intrusive but sadly normalized. Then it will ask for your location, and here I had to use mainland China because no other region seems to be supported when using the BE7000. Any region will work for now, but after pairing the router there will be an error, as you will see. I eventually gave it access to the local network since it will not see the BE7000 otherwise, and we could finally continue with the setup process. The password is going to be the 2.4 GHz network passkey, and then I had to agree with the user license and agreement as well as the privacy policy once again. And that's about it. Let's now see some configuration options. At this point you don't really need to do anything, but you can enable the third radio if you want by going to Common Settings and choosing Tri-band mode underneath the Wi-Fi mode switching, and you can group all bands into one if you wish to use the multi-link operation. If you scroll a bit lower, you can change the settings of each Wi-Fi network, enable the Wi-Fi 5 compatible mode in case some of your devices appear to experience issues with the network, and under Internet settings you can change the internet connection type and scroll down on the bottom to select which port will be when. The router is very much capable of detecting it by itself, but you can select the preferred one if you want. The advanced settings will include QoS, VPN and more, but I was especially interested in the customize the network port area. That's because here you can enable the dual WAN mode, and there are multiple available presets, including the bandwidth aggregation, which is not that common on routers at this price point. The LAN port aggregation will let you move data faster between the router and the NAS, while the game network port will let you prioritize one port for the gaming console, laptop or PC. We're not done because one of the most interesting features of the Xiaomi BE7000 is hidden underneath the storage settings. I am talking about the Docker, and to install it we do need an ext4 USB drive. So I quickly created one in Linux, but I am sure that there are some tools which will format a drive to ext4 on Windows OS as well. Then again, it's not a bad idea to dual boot Ubuntu or any other distro considering the direction that Microsoft is currently heading. That recall thing really does not look good. Anyway, after the drive is detected, wait until it installs the Docker files, run the Docker and click on Install the third-party management. Lastly, click on the management Docker and insert admin for both the user and the password. This should take us to the simple Docker graphical interface. At this point you have two ways to go about things. First, you can pull the images using the graphical interface and then run them from the container management section. But I'm sure most of you are accustomed with the console commands, and to use them you can access the terminal by checking the operation menu next to the container. The second icon should say terminal commands, so click on it. Now we can pull and install any supported image. I have tried to install both the AdGuard and Pi-hole, but I have encountered some issues. First, neither of them allowed me to choose the installation path, but removing those commands allowed the installation to continue. But the biggest problem is the port allocation. The required trio, port 80, 443 and 43, were apparently used by another service. I did use a Linux machine and entered the following command, but it insisted that the ports were not used by any service or application. And after playing whack-a-mole with the ports for hours, I could still not move on with either AdGuard or Pi-hole. I did check the default DNS settings on the router and nothing seemed strange, but there is a hacking protection application on the Mi Home, so there is a chance that the router itself uses these ports natively and doesn't want to let go of them to third parties. I may be wrong, so I am open to any correction. I didn't want to leave things this way, so I had to install the Home Assistant. I used the terminal and entered the following commands. Choose the time zone accordingly to where you are located, but the good news is that it went through and the container was successfully up and running. To access the Home Assistant interface, go to the following address and create a new account. You should now be able to add your devices and create a true smart home without relying on the manufacturer's servers, at least for the most part. If the interface seems slow, turn off the Docker and then turn it back on. That's about it for now. Let me know if you have any suggestions for any future videos. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you want similar content in the future. Thank you for watching and see you next time.